Hello and welcome to the Rask Network. What you're about to hear and see is limited to general financial information only. Please be sure to speak to your financial planner or refer to our financial services guide available at rask.com.au/FSG before acting on the information.
I don't know about you, but reining in my grocery bill seems to be a never-ending challenge this year. In fact, recent ABS CPI data over the last 12 months to the June 2024 quarter showed the cost of food and non-alcoholic beverages rose by 3.3%, and meals and takeaway foods were the main contributor. Hello and welcome to the Australian Finance Podcast. I'm your host, Kate Campbell, and I'm joined by my wonderful co-host, Owen Rask, to talk about how you can slash your grocery bill right now. We know things are tough. We know everything's getting more expensive. So we're going to share some actionable tips and tricks. Owen's got some recipes up his sleeve, some Aldi fake outs, things that you can use to reduce the cost of your groceries right now.
Absolutely. Aldi fake outs. I haven't heard that before, but I like it.
I meant to say something else, but fake outs. There we go. You know how people say fake away?
Yeah.
Instead of takeaway, so you just make the burger at home and it's so much more tasty and so much cheaper than buying 3 burgers,
Yeah.
you and your friends on Uber Eats.
Yeah, I get it. That's cool.
Dupes. That's what I meant to say. Aldi dupes. There we go. Different word.
Aldi dupes. Okay. So yeah, cool. I mean, we were just talking about this. We're just looking at the ABS data, the Australian Bureau of Statistics. This is the big government body that looks at all the different costs of things going up and down. And I was saying that, you mentioned like takeaway meals on average are up 4% for the 12 months to 30 June 2024.
Is part of that wages and just the cost of running the store going up too?
Yeah, it would be. But it's also just the cost of things like distribution, right? Like getting the food to the takeaway or whatever the case may be. But their costs are going up, so they pass it on. And if you go back 12 months before that data, so we're just looking at the last 12 months, but that's 4%, or in the case of overall food and non-alcoholic beverages of 3.3%, that's on top of whatever happened the year before. And that was when prices went out of control. Like I remember looking at dairy inflation, the price of things in the dairy sector going up like more than 10% in 1 year. So we're going up 3 or 4% a year on top of 10%, which was on top of something else. So most of us that are buying things now are not just looking at, well, it's gone up 3%. It's actually gone up a lot more than that because we're looking back since probably the end of COVID is a good yardstick for most people. Bottom line, you don't need us to tell you that things have got way more expensive at the checkout. So that's what this episode is all about, Kate.
Yes. So the first tip I have, which isn't going to sound groundbreaking, but sometimes we just need a little bit of reminder, is just to think about shopping outside of Coles and Woolworths. They do have a monopoly on us. They're usually close. They're easy to get to. They have everything we need. But if you think a little bit outside the box, I know it takes more time, but maybe you do it once a month where you actually go to your local fruit and veggie grocer. And often they can sell seasonal produce to you at a much better rate, especially if you are happy to buy in bulk and maybe split the cost with friends. Or even going to farmers markets, they're often doing veggie boxes and things like that. So for $20 or $30, you can get all of your fruit and veggies for the week. You just have to be a bit more flexible with what you're cooking.
Yeah, so shopping outside Coles and Woolies, the ABC and Choice recently showed they did an analysis. This is just back in June, so not that long ago. They did an analysis that for basic grocery items at Aldi, people are paying 25% less than Coles or Woolies. So if you've got a family, if you've got a bigger, grocery budget every week or month, you're going to benefit the most from those types of products and services. As a lover of the Costco experience, I know that Costco isn't always the cheapest, particularly if you're 1 or 2 person household. But for larger families, I would be going to Costco a lot and just looking outside, like you said, outside of the usual suspects, which are Coles and Woolies. Yes, it might be a bit further to drive. Yes, there might be other things that go into this, but for the most part, I think you're bang on the money here, Kate.
And Aldi seem to be quite a lot more affordable for dairy products as well, just in terms of yogurts and if you want cheeses and dips for having friends over, there's quite a big price difference, I've found.
Well, actually, one of the things that I was going to recommend is a highly recommended, you can take this to the bank. This is purchasing advice treat it however you like. I would say the goat's cheese from
The
Aldi.
slices, the sliced goat's cheese.
Oh yeah, and the
Oh,
cubes.
that's so good.
I mean, they're
Mm.
and now we make a joke over on our Australian Investors podcast because Drew, who co-hosts the Investors podcast with me, his name's Drew Meredith. So I often make the joke that his family started the Meredith family goat's cheese. It's definitely not him, but I still blame him for my favorite cheese going up in price. So
It was devastating to discover that we weren't going to get a lifetime supply of Meredith goat's cheese because that stuff's so good, but it's often about $13 in Victoria.
it is. It's so expensive, and you can get it at Costco, and it's a bit like you get more, I guess, bang for your buck. But it's like a huge jar of goat's cheese that even I wouldn't eat. So I'm like, I ain't going to spend on that. But yeah, I mean, there's a cheaper alternative at Aldi, which is really, really good quality, and it's not nowhere near the ticket price.
And also, if you are at Coles and Woolies, if you're a bit more flexible with your fruit and veggie, the Odd Bunch at one of the supermarkets and the other one has a similar version where you can buy a big bag of something that doesn't look absolutely perfect. Maybe it's a big bag of pears at the moment, or onions or capsicums, and it's often really, really good value. You just have to be prepared to use a bit of that ingredient during the week.
Yeah, they're normally on the ends of the aisles. I don't know if you've seen that, but they're kind of like on the end to try and highlight that it's more sustainable and eco-friendly. But just keep an eye out next time you're at your fruit and veg, like the department inside Woolies or Coles. You'll actually see them, and they're like odd lots or whatever you want to call them. They'll be there, and they are actually cheaper. So, I mean, who cares? If you're going to chop up a pumpkin and put it in your pumpkin soup, does it really matter what it looks like? Like, I know that people have a kind of a view on fruit and veg, but seriously, does it matter? Like, chuck it in the pot, have a roast. It doesn't really matter if you ask me. So may as well spend less.
Now, the next thing I wanted to share is that I'm fully converted to click and collect delivery. You can use online delivery, but I'm fully converted to using click and collect if I am going to the supermarket. I even wrote down 5 reasons
Go for it.
why I think it's so helpful. The first one is that I can plan all my meals out and make sure I haven't forgot anything, as I'm not under time pressure to navigate the changing store layout, the checkout, and the pressure to get things into the fridge. So it's really easy. I'll meal plan. I'll make sure I've got everything for the week. So I'm not doing the top-up shop, which can often lead you to spending more throughout the week because, well, if you're going in to get one thing, you may as well get some other things. The second reason is I can track the total cost of my grocery shop as I add everything to the cart. So if I see for that week that a particular grocery is suddenly really expensive, like broccoli's $13 this week, well, I can probably just switch that out of the recipe and go and find something similar while I'm there. I can do all of that thinking on the couch rather than when I'm in the store going, I need to sort this. I've only got half an hour. I need to go. So that's been really helpful, and I can sort of track how I'm going towards my budget and see if there's any lower cost alternatives. I find it's really easy to compare things online rather than when you're at the store and it's a bit confusing and you're seeing so many new products and specials. And it's a bit of an easier way to control your spending when you're doing it online. The third reason is I'm not tempted to buy things I don't need because it's a bargain, or add snacks to my cart because I'm shopping hungry. I do it a much more controlled way at home, so that helps as well. The fourth one is I use the saved list function for core groceries like milk and butter. So I can put everything in a list, and that makes it a really quick process because I can just add list to cart. It lets you know if you need to make any changes, but that speeds up the process because I know people don't really like going shopping for groceries and thinking about meal planning that much. I know you don't.
I'm one of those people. Easier.
So save time. You like that butter. You like that milk. You can just add that core weekly shop list to your cart. And the fifth one is it just saves me so much time to enjoy my weekend more. In my case at the moment, more time to study. But there is my TED Talk on why I like using
5 reasons. So I'm going to summarize. 1, you can plan your meals and make sure you don't forget things. Number 2, you can track the total cost as you go, so you can sub things in and out. You're not tempted to buy extra things because you're not shopping hungry, which is a really good saying. Number 4 is you have that kind of list of those things you buy every week, and it's just bang, done, saving your time. And that's the 5th one as well, which is just you get your life back on weekends. Like that's the thing with me. I'm always looking for things in my life too, Kate, where I'm like, this is something that I don't like to do. How can I like remove or reduce this thing in my life? And it's easy to do that now with technology. You can shop online pretty quickly. One of the catches here may be in the case of, say, like Woolworths. For a long time, Woolworths offered a significant discount. You could do one big shop a month and get a discount on that grocery bill. But then they took that away for people who shopped online, because I think they would have done the math and they would have worked out that most people, hey, when you do shop in store, you're probably going to spend a little bit more. Your average basket might be higher or something like this. So they kind of try to tinker with that. I think they brought it back. But the key,
I think there is a grocery rewards system internally. There's a membership you can pay for. I think you should head over, if you're interested, to Tash Invest's Instagram page, because she did a comparison and had a look at whether those programs are worth it. I haven't tried them myself.
I use Coles Plus. So I have a Coles Plus subscription that I pay for every month. Also tried the Woolies option, but with Coles, I think it was just easier and more efficient. But we also then link that to our Flybuys. We use the Flybuys to then get us velocity points, which we use on travel. And we just collect velocity points from 7-Eleven if we have to fill up at the Bowser. We also have a credit card that does create velocity points for us that we pay off every month, like use it responsibly and all that sort of stuff. So we do that, and that's the best thing for us. Another thing that is really popular these days is you might have like a Google Home, an Alexa device, or even just your phone, like, just talking to your iPhone or whatever the case, or okay, Google. You can create a shopping list on the go, and then you can use that list.
Something went wrong while I was trying
to
create your list.
There we go. I didn't even know I had that device.
Can people hear that? I don't know.
I don't know if people could just hear that, but my device just went off just over here. I didn't even know this thing was in the room. It's one of these smart router things. But we have a shopping list like that, right? And then we just put that straight into Coles, bang. We also have, with Coles, we have this cool feature where it knows what we bought last time and it tells us if they're on sale. So then we can just go bang, bang, bang. And if it's not in the basket. So that's a big thing. And then finally, we shared something on our Instagram this week. It was a bit rogue. I don't always get the controls to the social accounts. Hence why we're hiring a social media manager. If you're listening to this, we're looking for a social media manager. Reach out to us on Instagram. That's how you can submit your portfolio and just tell us why you want to work with us. But anyway.
And to clarify why we're here, the real Rask Instagram is just RASK Australia.
Yep.
Nothing else. No extra words, no tips, nothing like that. And if they're DMing you, which there's another pesky account going around at the moment, do not respond to them. They're probably going to try and get you to invest in their overseas crypto scam, and you'll never see that money again. So may as well just interact with the real one. We won't be DMing you about our trading strategies.
No DMing you about trading strategies ever. We'll never, ever, ever in the history of Rask tell you to go to a WhatsApp account either.
And if you want to test for sure, you can ask us what our favorite cheese is, and we'll tell you. Meredith's goat's cheese.
Yes.
Hopefully the scammers won't get that.
But anyway, social media manager position is up and running, so hit us up ASAP. Second of all, you may have seen that we shared Raise was running this random rewards program the other day where if you had never used Woolworths online, you could shop, and they only gave you a 24-hour window to do this. So you had to be on the money. But if you use Raise to then click the button that says shop at Woolworths, you go and did your purchase, you would have got 17% of that purchase invested in your Raise portfolio. Now, Raise isn't the only one that does these types of things. There are cashbacks. If you're a member of, say, like your RACQ, RACV, these types of loyalty marketplaces, they often have discounts on like Woolworths gift cards or whatever the case may be. Take advantage of them, use them. The bigger your budget, the more savings you get. So
one of my friends is always getting the Woolies gift cards when they're 5% or 10% off, and they find different places to buy them, and that's just what they use for their weekly grocery shop. So they're always saving 5 to 10% just by doing the gift card thing. It's a little bit more manual, but works for them.
Well, yeah, I mean, that's one, like we know that, your grocery bill, your food bill, in general, is one of the probably 3 big things. Like most people are stressed by their mortgage and rent, which obviously makes sense. Then it's like oftentimes it's like transport and those types of related costs or whatever. And then there's the grocery bill. So the more you spend, the more you will save if you follow these steps. And that's the beauty of it. The next one, Kate, and this was the one that got me really interested because I'm on this kind of like thing at the moment. I'm in a big, like deep vortex of these things, is adding some seasonal fruit to your cart. Tell us about this.
Yes. So we can get very obsessed with the idea that we want different ingredients at a particular time, but that can make our life a lot more expensive. So if we get to know what is in season at particular times of the year, like for example, we know that blueberries are very common over Christmas, over January. And so it's much more affordable to go and get blueberries at that time. But during the rest of the year, blueberries can be extortionately expensive because they're not in season. And that's natural and that's okay. So I've got a few links to sustainable produce guides so you can get to know what's in season at different times and use that as a reference point. And just look for recipes that feature those ingredients. They're probably the ones that are more affordable in the store, and try and shop in season and just sort of get comfortable of what is happening at each time. And so you can actually find recipes that feature those ingredients rather than just trying to get avocados 365 days of the year.
Yeah, absolutely. Like, you've ever bitten into an apple and it's like powdery and it's kind of gross? That's because they've tried to do something which is not necessarily as natural. They might have, delayed it. It might be frozen. They might have used chemicals to try and keep it shiny, but on the inside, it started to kind of go a bit gross already. So shopping seasonally makes sense, but it's also when the fruit and veg is most abundant. So you get this opportunity to get more of it for cheaper. And hey, if you do get blueberries and they're on special, freeze them yourself. Like, you don't have to wait for someone else to freeze them and put them in plastic for you. There was an interesting thing, and apologies for quoting Choice again. I just love the website Choice. They had they showed this idea that for depending on, the family budget and whatever, you can save up to $1,900 a year by using the loose alternative versus prepackaged things. So this is things like, it's not just fruit and veg, but it can be like, they used examples, and I quote, bananas, green beans, Jarlsberg cheese slices, chilies, ham, mushrooms, salmon fillets, tomatoes, seafood marinara mix. They're all cheaper in their loose format at both Coles and Woolies, end quote. So it's not just fruit and veg here. We're talking about other stuff. Anything that comes in packaging is more expensive on average. So try to do it yourself. And I've got another recipe.
I'll just point out in things that you shouldn't get packaged: ham. The supermarket ham, if you get it pre-packaged, it's usually reasonably expensive. Plus, it's slimy and very processed.
Yep.
Maybe there's some exceptions to that. But if you go to a deli or you go to a butcher and you get the ham sliced for you, it's still very reasonably priced. Plus, it's so much fresher, tastier, and you're going to have a much better sandwich.
Well, this is like the whole seasonal supply and demand thing, is that so if they've got a lot of ham that's coming in, right, the supermarket is going to try and get rid of that as quickly as can because they've got so much. They can't just have ham sitting on the shelf for the next 2 years. Like, they've got to move it. So that loose, fresh stuff that you find in the deli, it's got to go. So that's what makes it cheaper. That's what makes it more affordable. And that's what makes it better quality. And so when people often say things like, oh, it's so expensive to eat healthy, if you actually shop well, it's probably cheaper. It's probably easier. And the key thing is just knowing what to look for. When you go into the supermarket and you see, on the end of the aisle, there's the there's the odd lot of fruit and veg. I can shop there, or I shouldn't probably pick that prepackaged ham up, as Kate said. Maybe I just go and get the bit from the deli and stand in line for 30 seconds extra. It'll go a lot further.
I'm still thinking about ham, Owen, but were you the kind of family growing up that would buy another Christmas ham on Boxing Day?
No.
Because it was half price.
I was not growing up, but the in-laws do it now, and that makes sense too, right?
It's a fraction of the price, and then you've got ham for days.
Yeah, and because you're buying it the day after everyone wanted it.
Like buying chocolate Easter eggs the day after Easter.
Yeah, it makes sense.
That's a great hack.
It's like using a very basic understanding of economics to just save heaps of money, get better fruit and veg. Like, it's just a better experience. And that's the benefit of understanding the basics of finance, I guess.
Yeah, so understand what's in season, there's greater supply, more affordable prices, and then what's in the supermarket when people don't want it, like a Christmas ham on Boxing Day or Easter eggs after Easter. There's probably other examples to go off there, but figure out when things aren't as popular and you might be able to get some bargains there. All right, the next tip I have, which Owen briefly touched on before, is getting really acquainted with your freezer. And I think it's a really good tool you can use in your mission to cut costs and reduce food waste. I use my freezer for meat because often it can be cheaper to buy chicken fillets
Mm.
in a bulk pack. And so you can't cook that much chicken unless you have a huge family. So you can freeze portions of that. So you've got it for multiple meals over different weeks, especially bread. I mean, I can't get through a loaf of bread as quickly as I need to before it goes stale. So I'll freeze sliced bread in the freezer so I can just take a couple of slices out. You can do that with everything, really. Some things don't freeze that well, but most things do.
Yeah, I think you can. Because we get our fruit and veg delivered, we buy the organic fruit and veg because like I said, I'm down that kind of like, I'm deep in that vortex at the moment, and that's where I'm at. But a lot of our stuff we don't eat straight away, so we find alternative uses for it. We might make, our own pasta sauce, for example, if the tomatoes and onions are sitting there, and then you can freeze it, or you can just put it in the pantry, or whatever the case may be. But one of the things that I would give is just a little tip for people that freeze their freeze their meat, and including their fish, as someone who does a lot of fishing, is when you use your freezer bags, just put the date that it was frozen or the date that it was caught. If you caught your own fish or whatever the case may be, just put that date on there, because even though you use the freezer, things can still go off.
Yeah.
And so you still want to know when you reach into the freezer, which one was it that was like the last one that I froze? Like, you want to know what that is. And it's just like have a little texter in your kitchen, freezer bag, bang, done.
Yeah, I haven't put that much stuff in my freezer that I've forgotten what's in there yet. It's usually used quite quickly because it's very small and there's a few people wanting to use it. But I remember growing up having the deep freezer, and my dad would never label things as he was told to. And there would always be these mystery containers of some leftover from how many months ago?
Who knows what it is? It's kind of like, I think that's
surprise.
pasta, or maybe it's like curried sausages.
And
I don't
you
know.
would find out when you defrosted it.
Yeah. But we recently invested in a chest freezer. So we have a bit of room underneath our house. So we bought a chest freezer. We got this amazing deal. There was like this white goods sale. But just a quick little tip here. A few times on the show, I've mentioned my friend who's like the best gummy on earth, the best Gumtree user I've ever come across. And we went and bought this little like chest freezer thing. And then he's like, that's a really cool idea. And he looked at the make and model, put that into Gumtree, and then got it. So ours was like $300 and something bucks. He got it for like under $100, and it was virtually brand new secondhand. I'm like, gosh, like this guy, like it works. And now we use it for all different types of things, like the dog food, even freezing. If you have like chooks and that sort of stuff, you can make up pre-made foods. All these different types of things. So definitely a good freezer is worth it, particularly if it's energy efficient.
The next thing I've got is mixing in a few low-cost meals into your overall meal plan every month, because this can really reduce the cost, especially if you want to leave room in your budget for going out with friends or having people over, or just the random takeout night. And so this can really bring costs down. So things that I've done is maybe sometimes, especially when I get home late from uni, I'm just having an omelette on toast for dinner. Veggie curries, maybe veggie stir fries, dal, fried rice, pumpkin soup's been a big one. These can all be really healthy, tasty meals. Often vegetarian does bring the cost down a little bit. Make sure you use lots of herbs and spices so it tastes interesting. Recipe Tin Eats, I am going to say this forever, but they've got a lot of low-cost meals that you can use. So just mix things up a little bit. It's not every night. You still want to have the things you enjoy eating. Not to say that these aren't things I enjoy, but just I think, okay, well, a couple of times a month, I'm going to have a lower-cost meal in the meal plan just to even things out a little bit.
Yeah, that's cool. I love that. Well, yeah, I think just as like looking at this rationally, meat and fish are going to get so much more expensive as the world gets hotter, as there's less arable land, there's more people to feed right around the world. As a general rule, I would assume that meat is going to get so much more expensive over the next 50 years, like so much more expensive as it becomes more and more difficult, unless we find alternatives. And fortunately, we have kind of the best alternative, which is plant-based foods right now. And that's a really quick way to get the family budget back in shape as well. And I'm going to give you a bit of a secret recipe here, Kate. And this is something that I used to make our bolognese, our spaghetti bolognese. Like you chuck in some mincemeat, you chuck in all these different things, and it'll get really expensive because you're just putting things in and you think more is better. But having recently returned from the northern summer, I've we've come back with these wonderful recipes of simple, really elegant meals. And there's kind of this like red pasta sauce that we make now. It's like really velvety and really silky at the same time. It's kind of like a pasta sauce that's like, it kind of like sticks to your spaghetti and it's just beautiful. And I'll tell you exactly how we do it. And it's super low cost, super low cost. You just get this whatever standard pasta sauce or passata. It doesn't really matter what it is. Just don't get any of those freaky flavors because that will kind of dominate it. But a touch of brown sugar, like a teaspoon, a little bit of tomato paste, just drop that in because that's what creates the thickness in the sauce. A couple of drops of olive oil, some olives if you got it from the deli, and basil. There's no meat, there's no nothing. That's all it is. So because there's no meat, you can cook this in 10 minutes if you want to. Like it's super quick and easy to make. Mix it in with your pasta, it's done. And the three key ingredients there are the olive oil, the brown sugar, and the tomato paste. You mix those three together. Most people don't put those in combination in their pastas. And it is beautiful. If you want a bit more nutrition, chuck a broccoli in or chuck something like that in. That is like pasta al dente. It is perfect. And there is another thing around this that I'll add, which is with being a Polish family, growing up, our families grew up like making a lot of their own sauces and these types of things. But the one thing that we always made was our own salad dressing. And I was relieved to find in Choice's big guide on how to save money on your grocery bills, one of the most important things they say is creating your own condiments. So salad dressing, really simple option, 1 tablespoon of vinegar, 3 tablespoons of olive oil, half a teaspoon or a teaspoon of mustard, done. Amazing. And it lasts for a very long time.
Wonderful. Well, that tastes really good.
It's the way to go. Just pour that on your salad, away you go.
Wonderful. Well, the very last thing I have is buying staples in bulk on sale. So there's a lot of things that we have to add into our shopping carts. Things like olive oil, maybe things like toilet paper, dishwasher cubes that can add up and can be a bit more pricey. Especially olive oil, just seems expensive, but it tastes great. So these are things I know that I'm going to keep using. So if I see the olive oils on half price, I might grab 1 or 2 bottles because I know I'm going to need it at some point in the next few months. I don't necessarily need it right now, but I can save half the price there. And even things like if you see dishwasher tablets on sale, they last ages. So you could get a couple of packets there. And then even cooking staples. So if you know you like having tins of coconut milk in different curries you make, or you like various tins of beans, or you use oats a lot, or you use whatever you use, if you can see it on sale and you have the space and the financial means to grab a couple extra, that's something you can do to lower your costs over the year.
Absolutely, Ken, Kate. We only need to go back to COVID to remember how many people hoarded toilet paper and got ahead of the curve, right? They saw this huge demand somehow for toilet paper.
I'm not advocating hoarder behavior, but just like a couple extra.
But that's the extreme example of people saw that more people are going to want that toilet paper for whatever reason. And you get ahead of purchasing something that's going to be more expensive if you just leave it for later. It's like long-term investing, right? And these are the key thing is things that don't go off, whether that's, canned things like baked beans, lentils, whatever the case. I've got a few examples here that you might want to consider getting at Aldi. Things like the Logic dishwasher tablets. Now, some people say these are the Aldi equivalent of like the Finish and whatever. Some people say they're not as good. So I would always go with I think it's the platinum one, the purpley pink one. They've always been bulletproof for me in every dishwasher we've ever had. It's always been just as good as the twice as expensive version. Aldi nuts and grains and things like that. Oh, so much cheaper, so much cheaper on the end of the shelves there. You all know the drill. And finally, a little bit for the parents, the Aldi El Toro Macho. I don't know if you've had that red wine before, Kate. Have you had this?
No.
That's legit the name of this thing. They do a Tempranillo, but it's...
I thought this was going to be some sort of corn chip thing.
No, this is like a red wine bottle. It's $5.99. It's won a heap of awards. It is very, very yummy. Like on the Rask yummy scale, this would be like near the top. I'm not much of a drinker of any alcohol whatsoever, but if someone gave me this at a dinner, I would be like, yes, I will have some of that. And it's only $5.99 a bottle. It's just at the front near Aldi, and it usually sells out. But if you get it, it's great. It's a staple that can sit in your wine cupboard, and when everyone gets fancy and pulls out their $30 bottles, you bring out the $5.99, and it's better than all of them anyway. So that's a pro tip for any of the red wine drinkers.
Yeah, and occasionally you can think outside the box. So you probably wouldn't think it, but Amazon do a lot of staples as well. So everything from buying a bulk pack of oat milk to hair care and sanitary products can be a lot cheaper on Amazon. They're still coming from the same brands, but they're getting sent by the warehouse and free shipping if you have Amazon Prime. So I often stock up on those things there because they're just so much cheaper than in the supermarket.
Scrub Daddy.
Things that you have to spend money on anyway. So
that's where I get my Scrub Daddy from, Kate, and it's on subscription. Because you get the Scrub Daddy
every on about this Scrub Daddy.
Every 2 months, my Scrub Daddy arrives and I forget about it. And they're like, oh, okay, new Scrub Daddy. When you go on and you buy things on Amazon and you go down the route that you're talking about, like toothpaste and these types of things, it gives you the option. If you buy it up front or you buy it as a subscription, it's cheaper on subscription because Amazon knows you're probably going to forget about it. So I buy these things on subscription, and it gives you the option when you purchase it. It says most people buy this every 2 months, or most people buy this every X, because it just basically knows what millions of people have been doing on its platform. And so you can just be like, yeah, I'll just take it every 2 months. And if it's too much, it's too much. I'll just cancel it. And you can do that with all types of things, which you mentioned, sanitary, toothpaste, any of that more expensive stuff that just kind of sits in the bathroom or the kitchen or the laundry. Explore, I would say.
And sometimes these products, it's good to have a bit of a store in your cupboard because you don't want to run out at an awkward time. But some of these tips might not work for you. Hopefully some of them you can test out yourself. They might take a little bit more time, but given that we're all spending, I'd say at least a few $1,000s on groceries and our food and essentials every year, it's probably something that you can think about a little bit more. Maybe you can cut a few $100s and give yourself a bit more breathing room for other things you enjoy, to give yourself a bit more just breathing room in your budget, to put more money towards your emergency fund, to paying off debt, to investing, whatever's your important goal right now.
Absolutely. Like we always just talk about this. Budgeting doesn't have to be sacrifice. Budgeting to us is rearranging priorities. It's saying, well, I'm not going to spend that extra bit at Woolworths and donate to the CEO of Woolworths. I'm going to actually keep some of that money to myself and spend it on the thing that's really important to me. Now, you could see that as saving money, or you could just see it as, I'm just going to take the money that I would spend there and put it over here. And that's what we mean by rearranging. And that's why budgeting can actually be quite fun and enjoyable, because you can get a good deal without being like a miser, without being like so frugal that it ruins your life. Like, that's not at all what we're advocating for. It's, you're going to be shopping anyway. So you may as well buy the things that are important to you and buy them at cheaper prices because you can.
Yeah. Don't voluntarily pay extra if you don't have to.
That's it. And we've got 6 things on this list. So shop outside Coles and Woolies if you get the chance. Use click and collect or an online order system mainly just to control yourself and spend less time at the supermarket on the weekend with screaming kids or whatever the case may be. Number 3, it was add some seasonality to your cart. Like, look at the things that are on sale, because that's supply and demand in action. That's fresh fruit and veg that time of year. Or in the case of a Christmas ham, it's on Boxing Day, it's cheaper. Number 4 was get acquainted with your freezer. There's some great freezers available secondhand on Gumtree or Facebook Marketplace, or just make the most of what you've already got at home. And number 5 was mix in a few low-cost meals, like spend a little bit more maybe on the big important dinners that you might have with family, but find cheaper alternatives those other nights of the week. Maybe you go to, during the week, you only have meat 1 night a week or 2 nights a week if you want to save a bit of cash. And the final one was what we all know is buy the staples, the things that don't go off. Buy them in bulk, buy them up front. Might be a cash flow hit in the short term, but in the long term, you've got it there. You've taken advantage of a great sale. So that's some great tips. And I'm sure we haven't even scratched the surface. So.
Yes. And don't time your toilet paper subscription to come too quickly, because otherwise you won't have space for it. Because I've got the Who Gives a Crap toilet paper subscription, and I got another 48 rolls well and truly before I'd finished the last one, because they offered you, I think it was about $10 cheaper if you signed up to their subscription. But you got to be careful there.
I've noticed, like, for people that aren't on YouTube, I'm looking at you and I can see you through the camera. You keep looking to the side of you, and I think there's like a big toilet paper mountain or something like this over on the side there.
There's a big box. Yeah.
Okay. A big box of who gives a crap.
Yes, I think that's the thing. The buy staples in bulk needs to be limited if you're living in a smaller apartment.
Okay. But that's good to know. Who gives a crap? Great Aussie brand. Really wonderful success story. So, Kate, this has been heaps of fun. It's always good to save money, and it's even better to do it when you can eat something at the end of it. So great tips and tricks here. Thanks for joining me.
No worries. And if you want to share your own grocery saving tips with us, jump into the free Rask community, which is linked in the show notes. Thanks for listening, everyone.
Thanks for watching this video on the Rask Network. While you're here, don't forget to like and subscribe so you can get videos each and every day on business, finance, investing, and so much more.